Welcome, brunch time theater mavens. This is Beyond the Green Room. And I'm David Edwards, and I have three incredibly talented and versatile and charming guests for you today who have joyously allowed us into their humble abodes. And one of them was bopping along to that music just now. I was spying, and there's a good reason for that. We'll find out very soon. But I want to bring them on without further ado. My first guest is a lady who has one of the most incredibly versatile careers I can imagine. She's done Shakespeare opposite Kevin Kline and starred in Broadway musicals as diverse as White Christmas and Urinetown and Miss Saigon and Jekyll and Hyde. Please welcome Anastasia Barzee.
Hello.
Hello. I love your earrings.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I added them during the break.
Everybody seems to be in fashion with those same earrings right now.
Well, I had to do it because my children are about to have piano lessons. So if I didn't use them, I would be hearing that, and then I'd have to get up and fix things constantly. So I thought I'll just put things in my ears. So
well, this is why we have so much fun seeing into people's lives here. You know.
Well, do you want to see me yell at my children? I could. You know, we've seen dogs, we've seen people in their underwear behind, by mistake, and all sorts of things. So, anything you want to bring to the table is I'll tell my husband.
Okay, let me bring on the two gentlemen that we have on the panel. This gentleman was the one bopping along to that music, which I know is familiar to him because he was involved in the original production, and we'll find out a little bit more about that. The musical is Pageant, and but he's been on Broadway in the Scarlet Pimpernel and Seven Brides, Seven Brothers on tour, on national tours, and has directed and choreographed all over the country. And please welcome Mr. Russell Garrett. Hi, Russ. Are you muted there? It seems to me you're muted.
I am now.
There you go. Now you are. You know what? Because we didn't want you singing along with that intro.
There you go.
I was afraid maybe you wouldn't even remember that, but anyway, we'll get to talking about that. But I want to bring on now. This gentleman has choreographed on Broadway and directed and choreographed all over the country, and everybody knows him. Both of you said, "Oh, I know Richard." So I know Richard too, and I'm very glad I do. Please welcome Richard Stafford.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Yay.
Hi.
So we usually play a little round robin here, and I ask each of my guests how we know each other from the beginning, and that kind of opens up the conversation. Let's mix it up and start at the end of the alphabet. And Richard, how do we know each other?
We know each other from having worked together on Christmas Voyager at Westchester Broadway Theater many years ago, and you played a multitude of roles, including an elf.
Yeah.
And you were the cutest elf, I have to say.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, I did so many Christmas shows at Westchester Broadway Theater, and that was not my first Christmas Voyager, but you completely reinvented it that year.
Yes.
And I have to say it was a lot more, I don't know, sophisticated than the previous version.
Good, I'll take that. I'll take that.
But I did go into the elf costume again, and but I played Charles Dickens, and which I ended up doing so many times at Westchester. And you must hold some kind of a record for the shows that you 18 shows at Westchester.
No, more 24 shows at Westchester. I know, it's so sad. So sad that no, that's not the sad part. The sad part is that it is no longer with us.
That's right. Yeah.
Theater, that it closed during the pandemic. They had to close. They didn't make it. So, the theater, it's where I got my equity card. way back when. So I go far back there. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you were much beloved there among the producers and, of course, everybody that worked there as an actor. I did 13 shows there, 2 as a director, but only 1 with you. But we had Karen Mason on a few weeks ago, and she was raving about working with you in Gypsy. Yeah. So,
Gypsy,
yeah. You did everything out there. They're going to miss you, and we'll
miss them. Yeah, miss them.
Yeah. So, Russ, how about you? When did we first meet?
It is 20 years ago this summer. In fact, just like 2 weeks from now, it will be 20 years that we first met. We performed together in Anything Goes at the Art Center of Coastal Carolina in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. And you were Moonface, and I was Lord Evelyn.
Yes. Yeah.
And we had some fun. And it was a great summer gig on the beach. That was fun.
Yeah, I remember coming into that kind of trying to catch a moving train because I came in a week late.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I was directing South Pacific at the Jersey Shore, and they said, "Oh, you can come in a week late." But when you come in a week late, everything's been staged, and you're trying to come aboard, and the choreography and everything else is. And I remember the first thing they had me do was come out of a huge crate, and I had to wait for the entire first scene and the overture and God knows what in that crate, and I was getting so claustrophobic. But that was it. And you've been back there many times since.
Many times. Yes, I had built a nice relationship with them down there. I performed there a couple times, and then they started bringing me in as a director.
Yes.
And so I worked down there several times as a director choreographer, but the last 2 times I've been down there has been as an actor. In fact, I was there during COVID. I did a show during the pandemic.
You
did earlier this year.
Off. Did you?
I did Noises Off there in January and February. Yeah.
Directed by Brad DePlante.
Brad DePlante, yes. Love Brad.
Yes, he's a lovely man. Yeah. I worked with him at Orlando Shakes a few years back. So I saw that cast list. I said, all my friends are working together. Why didn't they call me?
I know. I felt so fortunate to be there. Just to be working in the middle of what we were all going through, but also with Brad and a wonderful group of actors, and everyone was so happy to be there. Was so happy to be in a room working with each other and making each other laugh. And wow, we all needed that. So it was a great experience.
Oh, I'll bet. And what a wonderful show to do too, because it's all about the theater and the intrepid fortitude that we have to get the show on. So yeah. All right.
Exactly.
Anastasia, how did we meet?
Well, David is my first husband.
Okay.
You see, this is what COVID has done to me. My brain, I don't know where it went.
You don't remember Costa Rica? What?
I knew you from somewhere, but I couldn't remember what it was.
No, I don't even know exactly. I feel like I've just always known you. Did I audition for you? Because I don't, or you were doing a show at the same time I was doing, because I don't think we've ever actually been in the same show.
Actually, we have. And I will tell you, it was very brief, but we did
like our marriage,
elaborate industry reading of a show called Caligula together.
Oh, God.
See, I finally stumped one too. The marriage.
Yes. Oh my God, I remember it like yesterday now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You were terrific. And
I was pregnant.
Were you?
I was pregnant with my second child during that.
There's something very perverse about doing a show called Caligula and being pregnant at the same time. Yeah. So how old is he now that we?
He's 11. He's having his piano lesson. Yes.
It couldn't be that long, but I worked on that show. I was brought in for a reading at the Actors Studio by the producer, and they said, we're only going to do 20 minutes of the show, And I was playing Tiberius, and they said it was a glam rock musical, which, you guys who have worked with me, that's not really my fach. So,
oh, no, you were great. No, well, he was great.
Well, but the thing was, I said, a glam rock musical, and they gave me this script, and obviously what I did was very different from what they had imagined, but they liked it. So we did this reading at the Actors Studio, and we finished, and we asked for some feedback, and Peter Masterson and Carlin Glynn were running the session, and they were asking all these questions, and they said, well, what happens next in the plot? And Eric Svekar, who wrote book music and lyrics to this piece, said, well, first Tiberius dies, and then there was this huge outroar from the audience saying, no, he's the most interesting character that we've had in the show so far, so you mustn't kill him off. And I thought, oh, how delightful, how flattering, how lovely. And what happened, the next incarnation is instead of not killing me off, they just lessened the amount of material that I had. So I guess I wouldn't be as fascinating to the audience and lead them astray. But it was really a wonderful piece. And the reading we did together, we had an orchestra, we had a huge cast, Matt Bogart, and of course, Caligula himself, Ewan Morton.
Ewan Morton.
That's terrific.
We had fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun. That producer passed away, I think.
Yes, Rich Affinado. He was a dear friend of mine who I did the producers with, and he had a rather tragic bout with brain cancer. But he was a lovely, lovely, talented
Such a nice man.
And actually, the original director, Chris Mosley, had passed away earlier than that. So, we wonder why these things wither on the vine sometimes. But this may be one of those unique cases. But we had high hopes for it, didn't we?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was good. Yeah,
it really was. But
anyway,
maybe one day we'll see it come back. I look at your resume and I say, this is a girl who did everything from Irving Berlin to Shakespeare on Broadway. I don't know of anybody else who has quite had the diversity in their career as you. That's amazing. I'm gobsmacked.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I've been lucky. I got in the right room at the right moment for a lot of those, and sometimes that's all it is. But thank you. I'm very, very grateful for my time in New York.
But it's got to be more than luck too, because you have to be prepared to do all of that. And
well, I am trained.
Yes. But so often we don't get used in the way that we're trained. We just get typed into something, which is. But that hasn't happened to any of you. I don't think. Russ, you have done a lot of straight plays of late, and some a lot weightier than Noises Off. Not to be disparaging about that play at all, but Amadeus and
yes, although I was really the comic relief in Amadeus, so I don't know that my performance was weighty at all. I played the Emperor Joseph II, and my director, Russ Trays, God bless him, love him to death. He just let me loose. And every day in rehearsal, I thought, is he going to rein me in? Is he going to, no, never. And then on opening night, he gave me the biggest hug. And I said, Russ, I really thought at some point you were going to just say, hold it, just step back. And he was like, no, I just thought it was funny. I just let you loose, and I had the most fun. But yeah, not weighty for me, weighty for others.
Well, but to do that and not turn the whole atmosphere on stage to a different type of play is also a skill. I mean, Russ, I've worked with Russ Trays several times too, and I agree. He's not only a talented and lovely man, but he does really appreciate the actor's contribution and let him fly with it. Yes. But one of the things he said to me very early on, which I always appreciated, is that that musical theater people are among the most diverse and they're able to adapt very easily, because in musicals we have so many different styles. I mean, Urinetown, Anastasia, is not the same style as Jekyll and Hyde, nor is certainly White Christmas. And you've been able to balance all of those really amazingly well.
Thank you.
Well, and you did an intriguing project that I wish I had seen. You did Golden Boy at Encores, one of my favorite scores.
That's my favorite. When people say, what's the favorite thing you ever did? I always say that.
Oh,
I loved that score. And Susie Laurie Parks, polished up the script. And it was really great. And it was, that was the first time I worked with Walter Bobby, who then I worked with a couple more times. And Alfonso Ribeiro was Golden Boy, and he just was the dream leading man to be opposite. He just was so great. And that whole group, that whole cast was very special too. I mean, it's so fast and furious. You rehearse for less than 2 full weeks and then you're thrown out there. But it was amazing. I mean, I'm still friends with a lot of people from that Encore show. It just was a very special group and a special time, I think.
Well,
yeah.
That's
I loved it.
I hadn't seen it. I don't know what the hell I was doing, but I they're over so fast, and you missed.
I know.
I was hoping it had been recorded. Did they do material that was fresh or rewritten or?
Really, just the script was a little bit polished up. A few things, but not very much. And apparently, I heard later on from Jack Vertel, who was the artistic director at that point, that Susie Laurie Parks had wanted to do a lot more, but that the estate was like, no, that's not what Encores is. This isn't about changing the script. This is really just about presenting it in the way it was presented originally. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I would kill to see what she did that they wouldn't let her do, because she's pretty amazing. And I think that's the one thing that show is lacking, is the book is really kind of clunky and old, and it could be refreshed. I'm surprised it's never been done, the musical, but I think they had high hopes for that Encores, and then when it didn't happen, it was like, all right, well, whatever.
Yeah. I know it was tweaked before they moved to London with Sammy Davis originally, and there were different songs in it, and that's one of those things. All you musical theater collectors out there that, like me, that you have to have everything. Well, you have to have the original mono version of the LP and the stereo version, because it was redone. His takes were redone. The original one that they released was rather raw. He wasn't in great voice, and he wanted them redone. So for the stereo version and the one that came out on CD, it's pristine and beautiful. But my gosh, if you ever get your hands on the mono version, it's so raw and exciting. It's he took some of the lower notes, and it was grittier. But boy, what a performance that must have been. But
Alfonso was amazing. He really surprised, I think, a lot of people, because they forgot that this, he was a tap dance kid. That's where he started, and everyone knew him from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and knew him maybe from some game show stuff. They had no idea, and he was, oh God, he was so great. And Norm Lewis. I mean, it was a really fun group of people too.
And you got to sing that beautiful "I Want to Be With You."
Oh God, it was so good. I know, I get chills. My favorite, hands down, favorite thing I've ever done was that show with those people.
That's thrilling to hear because it's
Yeah.
one of my favorites. I wish I had seen it. So, Richard, I hesitate to bring it up almost because you were involved in a Broadway show that is through no fault of your own, and you're a prodigious talent. But in my life, how long did that run? What was that about?
Well, it ran for about a month, and the producer and Joe Brooks, the sort of somewhat infamous, I would say by now, Joe Brooks, had really hoped that the reviews would, which were not very good, would be, but there were a couple. I think the New York Times review was sort of interesting. That called it like a bafflement, and I think that he felt that a review like that would bring people into the theater somehow. So he was able to keep it open for about a month. It was a wonderful project for me because I met some terrific people, and I mean, it was a first-rate artistic staff. Oh my goodness, with Catherine Zuber doing costumes, and I mean, it was everybody. Christopher Eklund doing the lighting, amazing, and a gorgeous set and a wonderful cast. So I mean, to be able to be with those people in a room was magnificent. And you know, when I got the script was sent to me, and I thought, well, this is interesting. It's about a character with Tourette's syndrome, and I thought, well, that's never been seen, to my knowledge, on Broadway in a musical. So, and it was interesting, and the music was quite good. Joe Brooks was a real tunesmith, and so he brought an awful lot to the table as far as that goes. What he hadn't done was he hadn't directed a musical before, nor had he written a musical before. So there's the rub, of course, is having somebody, and he had complete control, really. And I was brought in as somebody, because it was very little choreography. It was musical staging, and I insisted that the title be called musical staging because there was there were no dancers. It was musical staging, which I'm happy to do, and it was lovely to work with the people, and everybody was very game. But I was really brought in to help with transitions, and also I think that they felt, the general managers really felt that Joe could really use somebody who had some musical theater experience, and so I was really happy to be with him. He had a wonderful associate, Dan. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on Dan's last name. I should have looked it up before joining you all here, but
you didn't know I was going to ask you about that.
No, I should have thought, though, because it is something that's been brought up. And actually, there's a book that's being written that I did some interviews for about the process. It's sort of a book of shows that don't make it, but sort of really looking at talking to the people who worked on the shows to talk about what the experience was like, which I thought was really good, because a show like In My Life and other shows of that ilk that don't make it, but still there was so much. We all try so hard, right? With anything, you put your whole life into it. You don't sit around going, well, this is horrible, we're going to get the hell out of here. You really work hard on it, and it was, obviously the stakes were so high, and so we commit to it. We all do. We commit to it, and we think, well, this is, this could make it. This could people might really be interested in it. I have to say that some of the response was very negative, but there were people who really loved that show. People would come up to me in the street and say, "You did that In My Life. I loved that. That was such a wonderful show." There was a guy there was a man who was so moved, a young, not an older guy, a young guy, during the opening number on opening night, who was like in tears, and I didn't expect any of that. Because it didn't move people. It didn't move enough people, I guess is what we would say.
Well, the guy in tears wasn't an investor, was he?
No, I know. That's the joke of it, right? No, he wasn't. And I sort of asked me, I just find this very moving. I clearly had it reminded me of some personal thing or something. I don't know, but.
Well, it certainly sounds like something that took a big bite, and it wasn't a safe choice for a Broadway musical, and that's the exciting stuff. We learn more from working on flops than we do from working on huge successes and just coast.
Right.
Part of a huge success, but I'm sure you you didn't have a lack of work after that, working on so many productions of Cats over the years, which was the other side of the coin, and in terms of success. And I mean, everybody I know has worked with Richard Stafford at one point or another. And
Anastasia, yes.
Yes.
We did Victor Victoria together at Tuts a few years ago.
Yes.
And I have to say, Anastasia, well, I'll say it to you now because you're here. I'm sure I said it at the time, but you were magnificent in that role.
Oh,
you just were. You brought all of your gifts to that role, and everything that you had done before that, you brought to it, and it was really. We had a wonderful cast, didn't we? And
yes, we did. We did. Tony,
just magnificent. Tony and
Tony Sheldon was just.
Oh, it's just
ridiculously great.
As Toddy, yeah. So that's a show that's rarely done, and it certainly has issues in the piece, the stage piece. But it was a pleasure to do something like that.
Yeah.
On a huge scale with big audiences and a nice size budget and all of that. Very, very nice.
And the sets from the tour, right?
Sets from the tour and the costumes from the tour that we revamped and reshuffled and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were literally in Julie Andrews' dress.
I literally was. I have pictures. I have pictures of two friends of mine that flew out to see it wearing the headdresses. I have B.D. Wong and Devin Onjenki wearing the headdresses. I have to send them to you. We'll do that privately later. But yes, I had Liza Minnelli. I had something of Liza Minnelli's.
Yes, you did. The Jazz Hot costume was Liza's.
Well, it's something when we after I had been out of the producers for a while, and they had lent all of the costumes for these various companies to rent out. There was something a lot of fun about going through the costume, because I ended up then directing it. I would go and we'd all be exploring whose tag was in this and that, and I wore Richard Burton's armor once in which was kind of thrilling. And the first time I played Don Quixote, Howard Keel's name was in the collar, and I had seen him do it when I was a little boy. So that was a nice lesson. Wow. And I think they cleaned it since then.
Yeah, they didn't clean Liza's. No.
Well, speaking of stepping into other people's dresses, too, Russell, I kind of surprised you by playing that music from Pageant. For those of you who don't remember, Pageant was a huge hit off Broadway, and then fairly recently was revived again. And you were in the original cast. Which part did you play in the original cast?
I played Miss Texas. Her name was Kitty Bob Ames. And she was a professional pageant girl.
So, I mean, for anybody that doesn't know what this show was, maybe you need to.
Well, it basically was a 90-minute entertainment. It was a live, performance of an actual pageant. It was a bogus pageant, of course, but it was a pageant sponsored by a beauty conglomerate called Glamoress. And they were looking for their next spokesmodel. Every year they would have a pageant to find this year's spokesmodel. And so there were 6 contestants and an MC, and we would play it in real time from the beginning of introducing, an opening number and introducing the contestants all the way through a winner being crowned, and then a finale number that we had to get through if we won or not, after she'd already taken her victory walk. And all of the contestants were played by male actors. And so it was just, talk about just a joy and the most fun to do. When people ask me, what do you look back on? I just say, well, that was the most fun I ever had on and off stage, because we would have as much fun in the dressing room for the hour getting ready. We would all slip into character and be in character for an hour, just riffing with each other and interacting with each other. And then we'd hit the stage ready to go. And we would just make each other laugh. And it was fun. And actually, 2 weeks ago today was the 30th anniversary of our opening night. And we celebrated. I hosted a Zoom get-together with the cast and the creatives and anyone we could gather backstage, anyone that we could gather who was a part of that, who was there when we started. And one of those people, he wasn't there at the very beginning, was Seth Rudetsky, who came in to, I believe it was Seth's first job moving into New York from Long Island, maybe right out of school. And he took over as the musical director. He played the show. He was right there and was a big part of it. And so Seth, of course, is now going to have the original cast and our creator, Bobby Longbottom, on his Stars in the House this coming Wednesday to celebrate that 30th anniversary and just to talk about that. So we're looking forward to that.
Well, you guys didn't record an album, did you?
We did not. And I think that was really just our producer, our producer at the time. It just didn't happen. He couldn't make it happen, or he dropped the ball, something. We never made a recording, which was a big disappointment. Well,
that's why I was looking around for it. I thought I had everything, and I thought, well, I just must have missed that one.
But where did you get that music you played?
Well, that was from the revival that they did off Broadway a few years ago. That my buddy John Bolton played the.
Oh yes.
And actually, the gentleman who played the MC in your production was a very close friend of mine, JT Crumb.
Oh, he was magnificent. We love JT. Not only was he talented, but he was such a good sport, right? Because we just were always messing with him, and just the fact that he had to keep such a straight face the whole time, and he sang magnificently. And what a great voice! Yeah, he was a joy. Yeah, I wish he was still around, because we missed him when we had our reunion. That we knew he had passed, and it would have been nice to see him.
Yeah. I knew when he was having his second bout with cancer that we did a workshop of a new show at the York that was supposed to go to their main stage, and it never happened. And I remember him saying, if I could just have one more big hit, because he did a lot of wonderful. He did Company and Side by Side by Sondheim, and he was in the infamous 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So he worked with a lot of great people, but he was a real mensch, a real team player too. Yeah. JT, if you're listening, we miss you. We love you.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't want to. I have actually a couple of pictures. I want to remind Anastasia. There is a picture of us doing that afternoon or evening presentation of Caligula behind our music.
Oh,
there
red hair. Look at me with my red hair.
Yes. And you and Morton. We look very, we're concentrating on a very deep moment there, I guess. But
we haven't changed at all.
You see that?
Look at that.
I tell you, I was actually rehearsing for No Nanette up in the upstate New York in the Finger Lakes when we did that. So I had to drive all the way down to do that for 2 days and then drive all the way back. And you couldn't have been doing two more diverse projects than No Nanette and Caligula at the same time. And yeah.
Oh.
And Russell, I have to show the picture of us.
Oh, I think I know which one is coming.
Anything goes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. My gosh.
You're in your sensible black.
Well, yes, it was very slimming, you see.
Very slimming.
but I you look like the NBC peacock there with all those colors.
Every pattern and every color they could find.
Yeah.
And who was the lady? Her face is very familiar to me.
Her name was Julie Dingman. And I'm not so sure she hasn't kind of given up the business to raise a family. I ran into her when I was touring with the producers in Kentucky.
Yeah, she lives in Louisville, Kentucky.
So there you have it. So she was a very talented lady and a joy to work with. And every time I went up on my lyrics and those songs that we had to do together. Gosh, do any of you hate list songs for remembering as much as I do?
Yes.
Horrible.
Because once you go down the wrong path,
you're done.
It's really hard to dig yourself out.
Yeah. Yeah, and some people can do the Leslie Uggams thing and make it up, but
can Leslie Uggams do the Leslie Uggams thing?
I guess I guess our audience probably knows it's infamous. It's been shown in every gay bar across the world of Leslie Uggams singing.
June
is busting out all over, and
the buzzing bees are buzzing and the buzzing.
Yes.
Well, just wait a couple more weeks. It'll be all over social media again once we hit June 1st. It always makes an appearance.
Right.
That's right. Well, just hope that Richard, I did look for. I think I must have a picture of me in the elf costume, but I decided not to show that. Even though it was very dignified, and you turned it into a sophisticated show.
Right.
There were some moments that you worked a lot at New York City Opera of late too on some intriguing projects.
Big surprise! Getting that phone call of will you come in and interview for this job from New York City Opera. I'd never imagined that I would. I mean, I'd wanted to sort of break into that or get into that some, and to get that phone call and then to actually get the job. It was a production of an opera, a Baroque opera called Los Elementos. It's in Spanish. And it's one of those things. It was just one of those things, like Anastasia was talking about, sort of being in the right room and just it all connected, and I was available, and it was so it was just my wonderful first go at it. I had a terrific cast of opera singers, and I was able to hire 2 dancers that I had worked with before, sort of a dance couple in the piece, and a wonderful ensemble too. It was great, and then I've gone on to do some other works after that. Which I've really enjoyed. I did Turandot in Hong Kong, which was sort of an exciting way to get to Hong Kong before all of this began, and to be able to do a smaller, I've done some smaller operas, and then Turandot was the last sort of really large thing that I did, and that's was very exciting to do that with Chinese speakers, and it was really thrilling.
Well, City Opera is a very different place now than it was when I was in the children's chorus. That's how I started in show business when I was a wee tot. And that's when they had a full 12-week season in the spring and the fall.
Wow.
It was a different place then. But they do some very exciting esoteric things now. And hopefully they'll be coming back.
Yes.
And you also did a revival of another favorite of mine, The Tree Grows in Brooklyn.
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh. You're bringing up all the sort of more obscure pieces. Yeah. Again, just one of those wonderful experiences that I would not have imagined that I would ever have. That was done off Broadway here at St. Clement's. And Tristan Blodgett was the musical director, and so she sort of connected me into that. We'd done Cats together and some other shows, and so that was really thrilling to do something. And it was, and they had the Dan who directed it, different Dan from the In My Life Dan. He had gotten the rights to make changes in the script, and so he did, and made some beautiful choices. And again, we had Clea Blackhurst was in the production. We have a wonderful just a wonderful cast, and she was not alone with the talented cast. It was just terrific. I think that it was one of those things where I wish that somehow it had. Well, it was difficult when you're bringing older piece like that does have some flaws, and then you make it better, and then you want it to be, really received with a bang, and it wasn't really. I mean, it was well received. It had nice notices, but not enough to sort of propel it. They'd hoped that it would have another life. That didn't happen, or hasn't happened at this point. So, but it was just a treasure to work on.
I'm sure that the director you're speaking of was Dan Wackerman.
Dan Wackerman, there you go.
The reason I'm bringing it up is because I did his production of Room Service that transferred that way, and And we did get glorious reviews, but we ran 6 months and didn't sell more than 3 tickets. So it's hard to bring back a chestnut like that. And I think the girl that played my girlfriend in Room Service was originally supposed to be in an earlier incarnation that they didn't get off the ground of Tree Grows in Brooklyn. That's how Dan found her initially. So,
gosh.
But I didn't see that either. See, I guess I only go to my own shows.
Well, we sort of look back during these times and think there's so many things to see, and why didn't I see this? And if only but I mean, it's New York City and an awful lot going on.
And you only have to be out of town for a few weeks with a job to miss something like an encores or something that doesn't have a long life. It's like, boop, it's gone.
Yeah.
And if we're lucky enough to be working, that means we're on the same schedule, so we can't, this, who knows, we're moving into a whole new chapter in our lives now. I think we're going to be excited about going to the theater as much as being in the theater and being on a stage. So I know I am, but and Anastasia, you did that the Kennedy Center production of Merrily too.
Oh, yeah.
I look at your
going back.
My gosh.
I was 14.
Okay,
that was a long time ago. No, that was a great summer. That was that Sondheim 6, where Kennedy Center they did 3 in rep, and then they did 3 more in rep, and a lot of those people I'm still friends with. Like it was like we called it Camp Sondheim. We all lived right there and ate all our meals together and did our shows and all watched each other's shows, and that was a very fun summer too. It was a great time. Yeah.
And Russell, I'm going to bring up the fact that you not only were in the original cast, but now you've directed pageant several times.
I've done it twice, yes, and I loved staging it because it's a tricky show, and I think if you direct it with a heavy hand, it's not nearly. It doesn't have the same kind of integrity. It can still be funny, but it's more of a joke, and we didn't play it as a joke. We played it very straight, very real, and the humor came from the fact that we of how we approached it. So I would just try and retain what our original director Bobby would do with us and tell us, and try to implement that kind of vision and focus. And I loved doing it. I had 2 really terrific productions that I was so proud of, and it was just fun to pass that along. I think for any of us, when we work on something that means something to us, to be able to pass that along as a teacher or as a director or anything, it's a gift. And so I loved being able to share that experience with people who had never seen it in New York.
Well, let's. We have a little short trailer of one of these productions that you did. I think at Sierra Reps.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
I was trying to find some footage of you in the costume, but alas, your career is you've become this classical actor and leading man, and so I guess
the beauty has faded.
All of that, I don't know, but let's show the trailer so people have a good idea of what this show looked like in your.
Oh my gosh!
Director.
Okay.
Well, I don't think I have to remind anybody, don't call for tickets. That was a couple of years ago. But
that was 3 years ago this summer, I believe. Yeah.
the accordion thing looked painful. I would think that would.
Well, it was painful to listen to, but then that was sort of the point.
Well, so
she wasn't very talented.
You know, when you guys were doing this originally, it was a different time.
Yes.
I know. And now the idea of having men play women on stage, it's not as embraced, shall we put it that way? Did you find any difference in attitude or?
I would agree with that. I don't know that we would that it would be accepted or embraced. I mean, at the time that we first did it, you had, you know, Charles Busch was way off in the East Village doing his crazy shows, and Lipsinka was showing up in cabarets and small off-Broadway shows, and that, you know, so there were artists out there who were playing women in shows, and so we were just another component of that. We just had a different tone to it. But you're right, I don't know what people would think of it. Maybe we would get blasted, you know. We also had a Hispanic character that we did not have a Hispanic actor. And of course, that would just never happen, you know, in this day and age. So, yeah, it would be a very different experience.
No, we're experiencing an awful lot of scrutiny right now in terms of those things. And you know, there was I think you guys probably have heard about the production of I Am My Own Wife that was shut down because they were not using a trans actor. And I don't know. It's hard because we as actors want to be able to do things that we are not. And at the same time, we don't want people shut out because they are not what we envision initially as the ideal for that role. So I think we have to tread a fine line right now because it goes against everything that we want to do. You know, we all think as performers, we can do anything. I mean, if we can play cats, Richard, we can play. You've done. You got one of Barrymore for La Cage. How come we've never done that together? I've done that several times. So.
Next time, David. Next time.
If I can still.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that.
Yeah. Even though because even that show gets blowback a little bit now from being somewhat antiquated for that reason. I think we forget that a show like that has it's about a larger image. It's about family and loyalty and love, and not necessarily about just dressing up in women's clothes. So that's what it's all about. Anastasia, I have another project that I want to ask you about that I'm very curious about because I know you have a wonderful solo CD out and you're on the cast album of White Christmas, but there's another past recording that not everybody has. You did a show in the West End called Napoleon, where you played Josephine. Tell us how you got involved in that. And
I auditioned in New York. And I had a series of callbacks, and then it was a new musical written by Andrew Sabiston and Tim Williams. Tim Williams has gone on to become a very famous film score person, and big, won an Oscar, kind of big. And it was directed by Francesca Zambello, and they auditioned people in New York, and I auditioned in New York, and I got a couple callbacks in New York, and then they flew me to London. And I auditioned in a room with a woman from France and a woman from Germany. And it was very intimidating. And a bunch of West End ladies, whoever, the Broadway versions in the West End. And again, it just was like, it's like they catch you at the right moment and you're able to do well. And I felt like I was kind of right for it. And they responded to me. My hair was very short then and very blonde, like almost platinum. I had been doing Jekyll and Hyde, and I knew I was going to be under a wig for a long time, so I cut my hair that kind of Annette Bening. It was probably only this long. And I mean, I loved it. But I'm auditioning for Josephine, you know, with the long, dark brown hair. And I'm on the stage of the Shaftesbury, and Francesca Zambello came to the lip of the stage and said, Anastasia, do you have any pictures of you with dark hair? And I was like, and I kind of said, let me look. Like, this is before, you know, we didn't have iPhones with a million pictures of us in different wigs at the handy. And I went back to this holding area, and I called in the stage manager who had our, you know, she had her binder with our names and our pictures, and the different women were going up and then going with different Napoleons and doing the big duet and doing the scenes and all this stuff. And I said, hey, come here. I said, can I see my picture? And she said, yeah. She gave me my 8x10, which was black and white, because we're going back to 1999. And I took it and I said, can I borrow your Sharpie? And she said, yeah. And I drew on my 8x10 long, dark, black hair with the Sharpie. So then the next time I was called out onto the stage, I said, I found a picture, and I gave it to her. And she looked at it, and she looked at me. And then she walked to the back where all the producers, there was like a whole line, it was Duncan Weldon, huge West End producer, and the Canadian producers and all these people and the writers, and he handed it to them. And I could see them one by one. They were like, and then handing it to each other down the line. Anyway, it was like one of those stupid things you do, but I think it helped make me stand out, because the producers said afterwards, he said, oh, we all fell in love with you. There was no like, we were deciding between you and France. And it was like, once we saw that, we went, oh no, we want her. She's going to be game for anything, kind of thing. So yeah, so I lived over there for 9 months. I had a beautiful flat in Bedford Court Mansions. And we worked on the show. It was, the score was beautiful. The score is beautiful. The book really needed some help. And I think that they just were not focused on that. They were focused on so many other things. And at the time, Francesca had not really done a lot of musicals. This was her first big musical. Then she went on to do Little Mermaid and different things on Broadway and I think regionally also. But she wasn't from that world. She was from the opera world, where it's like, this is what we're doing, make it yours, but this is what we're doing. So there was not a lot of changes happened. It tried to resurrect it again years later. And I actually was involved with trying to help them do it, not as an actor, but maybe as a producer. And I brought it to a friend of mine, going to drop a name here, John Patrick Shanley. And John Patrick Shanley, who I brought it to him because he is already obsessed with Napoleon. He has read everything on Napoleon. He has watched every documentary. It's one of his obsessions in real life, totally. And I gave it to him and he loved it. And he said, the mistake is that this isn't about war. This is about a guy who loves his wife, loses his wife, and loses his mind. And he was going to work on it. And we had, I'd gotten New York Stage and Film at Vassar to do a workshop. And the whole thing was like, oh, we're going to resurrect it. And the writers had agreed to let John come in and kind of work on the script and mold it into this thing. And then John started writing a play called Doubt. And he got a little busy and he was like, I have something here. And he writes just from the beginning. He says he never knows what the end is. And he said one night he had a conversation with somebody about the idea of doubt and how there's so much gray area in life. And he started writing it and kind of got obsessed into that. And he's like, I can't do Napoleon. So that's what happened with that. But for me personally, it was just one of those wonderful experiences. I lived over there and I had a very nice life and a nice time. And it was a very demanding, but really fun show to do. Very emotional. hugely emotional, big songs, big sets, big costumes, big wigs. It was pretty magnificent. But the Brits don't like Napoleon.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I thought, you have to be in touch with the zeitgeist of what audience is this for, and in what era are we producing this?
No, it should have been done in New York.
Yeah,
but it was more expensive to do it in New York. So they thought, let's do it in London and only spend $6 million, have it be enough of a hit so that then we can bring it to New York. That was always the idea. But then it never got to be anything in London because people hate Napoleon. We would get into taxis and we would say, so we're here from America. What show should we see? And they would say, I'm not kidding you. We would hear, well, just see anything but that French thing, that Napoleon, see anything but that. The taxi drivers, I mean, it was crazy, the hate that we got. Anyway.
Well, you ran 6 months or so. So
we did because they brought in these American financial producers, Kelly and Lou Gonda, who loved it and pumped an enormous amount of money into it because they really believed in it and they wanted to bring it to New York. But then, what do you do?
We have as our intermission entertainment a beautiful song that you recorded called Only in Fantasy because for an audience, in case they don't know about the vocal chops and the interpretive skills of Anastasia Barzee, you will see them all or hear them all. It's a beautiful recording, and I'm so happy that we have it to share.
Jonathan Tunick orchestrations.
Amazing, yeah. And the subtlety that you bring to it and the shadings. It's not all about the voice, although the voice is fabulous. So we want to play that during our intermission today. So you can turn the sound up, audience, and go to potty, but don't miss this performance. But before we do, we have our musical theater quiz question. And coming up on the month where we would be watching the Tony Awards, an interesting thought came to mind. There have been many ties in the Tony Awards, and 3 of them were in the category of Best Actress in a Musical, Best Performance by an Actress in a Musical. What were these 3 ties, and who were the actresses involved and the shows? Richard is shaking his head. I bet you don't know. All right. Well, I know we're going to get answers on that on the comments section because we have the usual suspects who know everything. But we're going to play that beautiful recording of Only in Fantasy, and we'll come back and answer the question. We'll see you after the intermission.
I once believed in fairy tales, sought out my storybook romance. I looked for love in each embrace, each passionate advance. How well they knew the things to say. I'd always found my prince at last. But magic nights soon fade away, and men move on so fast. Never in those fairy tales do they let the truth be known. You give your heart, you'll bear the scars. Only in fantasy is love forever lasting. In fantasy where nothing can go wrong. Guard your foolish heart against surrender. Realize a life strong. Live each day for you and for no other. Don't give in, don't offer him your trust. I know that those in search of fairy tales will soon learn such dreams turn to dust. What could be safer than this? There was no magic when we met. I simply made my calculations and took what I could get. Given how the scene was set, I'm not meant to feel like this, to need his touch, to crave his kiss. The fantasy is love forever lasting. In fantasy where nothing can go wrong. Guard your foolish heart against surrender. Realize that life rewards the strong. He doesn't mean the earth to me, how could he? I only thought to take what I could get. So tell me why then does his faintest whisper move me to give him my trust? Why, when I know dreams of happy endings all turn to dust?
Thrilling. Beautiful.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Gorgeous, stunning.
Dramatic.
And to think we didn't get to see that on this side of the Atlantic, but we have that recording. So I read somewhere that there was a full recording done, but it was never released, or so it was only like a 5-song sampler.
Yeah, we did a full work. They did record the whole show, and but I don't, I think it was one of those things, they had pumped so much money into it and just didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel at all for the show. They just thought, oh, just let's not do it. But yeah, we recorded the whole thing.
So it's
I have a copy. I have it.
Well.
I have it, and John Patrick Shanley has it.
Well, as a completist here, I would love to at least hear that. But also, you didn't get a chance to do. I know you did 7 Brides for 7 Brothers on Broadway, and everybody did a recording of that except the Broadway production.
Well, because we were a flop. And back then,
but there's a lot of flops that got recorded.
That's true, but I think a lot of it had to do with the time. It was 1982, and that was a period where, unless you were a hit show or had at least a decent run, they didn't bother to do a recording of that. I remember hearing years later an Australian recording of it, which I really loathed. So I wish we had, because on that, you would have heard David James Carroll, that magnificent voice of his, which wasn't even quite as stellar yet as his later work when he was going to do Chess and Grand Hotel. I mean, but it was still beautiful. And Debbie Boone was the leading lady. And yeah, it's a shame that we never had that recording. What are you going to do?
And also, what you need to do when you get your pageant reunion back together, say now's the time for us all to get back in the studio and recording.
Well, we do have a under the radar recording of a live performance.
Yes.
So we at least have that. That was not sanctioned, but it exists, and it's great fun to listen to every once in a while, just to have a laugh.
The infamous bootlegs, which all of us collectors are not allowed to talk about, but they exist.
They exist.
Yeah.
And on that, what is a shame that people can't hear are the wonderful vocal arrangements of James Raitt. And for any of your listeners who did not know James Raitt, James left us way too early in his career, in his life, but he was so talented. And he did all the arrangements for Forever Plaid. And that's what really lives on for a lot of people, is if you listen to or see a production of Forever Plaid, all of those vocal arrangements are James. And so the following year after that, he did our show, and just his work, it just elevated everything right up to another level. And then he did Damn Yankees, the revival in the early 90s, which was, again, a magnificent reimagining of how to approach that music, that big brassy Broadway sound. And he added new arrangements for songs that were just terrific. And that was the last project he worked on. And then we lost him to AIDS. Yeah.
I remember actually doing an AIDS musical that didn't get off the ground, that he did all the arrangements for shortly before he died. So yes, I didn't actually, I wasn't in the room where it happened, but I managed to get my vocal cords around some of his work, if that's the right description to use. All right, before I go down a rabbit hole, I do have to answer the quiz question. So do any of you guys know the answers to these?
No.
We got a couple of our stars here. Yeah.
Oh, right.
And that one was unique. Gwen Verdon and Thelma Ritter, they were both billed above the title, so they were both eligible in the same show, New Girl in Town. And they both won. And yes, Jay also got it. It was 61, or I guess it was No Strings, Diane Carroll and Anna Maria Albuquerque for Carnival. And then in 68, we had two flops, both with a score by Julie Stein, Patricia Routledge in Darling of the Day, and Leslie Uggams for Hallelujah Baby. Wow. So those are the three answers. Our 3 stars who get every quiz question right every week answered the quiz question correctly. I wanted to actually show a clip of Richard's work. Sadly, this was one of the last things that was done at Westchester Broadway Theater. And it's just, they did so many B-roll things that we weren't even fitting. I remember they took the one for the producers that I directed out there, and the set wasn't even there. Yeah. So this one looks absolutely gorgeous, and I think it must have been a remarkable. Another one I didn't see. So, but I want to share a little bit of video from your beautiful production of An American in Paris at Westchester Broadway Theater.
Oh.
I got daisies in green pastures. I got my gal who could ask for anything more. I got starlight, I got sweet trees. I got my gal who could ask for anything more. Who could ask for anything more? I've got beginner's luck, lucky through and through, 'cause the first time that I'm in love with you.
He'll look at me and smile, I'll understand, and in a little while he'll take my hand.
imagine how you put that together on that rehearsal schedule.
It's crazy there. I mean, it's the thing that we loved and hated about the place was that you had to get the show up in 7 days on its feet in 7 days, and then you opened it on day 11 or day 10. So you had like a 2-day tech period and then open, and you had to do a run through the night of that second day. So I mean, it's so just crazy. But again, casting, a wonderful, beautiful cast, and who did all their homework and came in knowing stuff, and then just great all the way through. Yeah,
but you're
great.
also very calm and gentle and encouraging with your cast always, and that goes a long way. Especially if you're in a situation like that, there's only one way you can be.
Right. Well, it's hiring wonderful people and letting them do their job and encouraging them to do their job and doing what you can do, what I can do as a director to help them do their job, and as a choreographer too. It's just you just want people to succeed.
Yeah. And as I've said many times, it's about trust. If your cast trusts you, they will take a bigger risk, and they won't worry about falling. They will go out further on the diving board and go in for the adventure with you. And I think when we did La Cage there, we never finished the tech. It continued throughout the week of previews, Yeah.
Oh my God.
That when I did Gypsy there with Karen, I felt so badly because we couldn't finish the tech, and we because it's such a long show, and we were using hydraulics and using all of this stuff, and so we had to stop in the middle of Rose's turn, unfortunately. I mean, they gave us, I know, awful, and she was understandably not very happy about that. But they always sort of felt like, and again, the very difficult thing about working there is that there is no curtain, so you can't sort of be working before the show begins. It's like they're eating. The audience is eating dinner or lunch or whatever, and you open on a matinee, and so you finish the tech and you come in, and the producer was wonderful, Bill Stutler, who always said, we really do consider that, it is a week of previews before they have a press opening. So they really do consider that first performance is very much like finishing the show. It is very tough. It's hard for an actor. It's hard for an actor to feel that they're not really exactly prepared or quite prepared enough to do that first performance. But they always had very supportive audiences, very loving audiences too, very grateful audiences.
Yeah, and they loved you out there. But Bill Stutler, Richard is going to stage all our shows, so put the rest of us out of work. Thank God he was such a great guy. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had that job. So
I hate to talk about the place in the past tense. I really do, because it was. I mean, so many people got their equity cards there and worked and gave work to so many actors and helped with insurance weeks and all that sort of thing. So
and there's no hope. There's no hope?
No, it's been destroyed.
It's
a warehouse. They took everything out. It's been gutted, and it's a warehouse.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, just awful.
And all they had 9 lives. I mean,
they did.
Dinner theaters in general were something that was on the way out, and the fact that they were able to stay on as long as they did was remarkable. Well, and we loved it because we could work for several months and come home and sit our own beds. And so I do want to ask each one of you that what's going on now? What are you looking towards for the future? Oh, Russell, stop! You always work.
What a terrible question, except during a pandemic.
Well, yeah, but we always feel that way, and then every guest I've ever had I've asked that question, they come up with 12 things after they get scared face like you did. I mean, Richard, I know you must be teaching, albeit virtually.
Yeah, I'm doing that, and I'm enjoying that. I'm really fortunate, though, to be doing another opera. We're starting on next Sunday, a week from today, with Ricky Ian Gordon and Michael Corey have written a beautiful opera, a stunning opera, The Garden of the Finzi Continis, based on the film and the book of the same name. Gorgeous. So I'm thrilled to be doing that. I mean, that's really wonderful. So we're doing a workshop of that starting on Sunday, and then I'm going to the Walnut Street. I'm so grateful. I mean, oh my gosh, to go to the Walnut Street to reopen their theater in October with Beehive, production of Beehive. So that will be wonderful. And again, just so grateful because, all of us, it's how do you even make a phone call to, it's just so tough. So, I know that I'm so fortunate and so lucky to have gotten those phone calls.
Well, you couldn't get two more diverse projects either.
No, I know. I know.
Your
Crazy.
juice is flowing. Come on, Russell, you must be doing something that you're
Not really.
even plans in your head.
Well, no, my hope was that, of course, we all had work lined up last year that didn't happen. And so as things started to brighten this year, I had really hoped that a couple of directing jobs and things that I had last summer were going to happen. But those venues don't have an outdoor space. They're holding off. I had a play, a musical I was going to do here in Boston that I was going to be in that has now been, they were holding on to that, and now it's like not going to happen. So all these possibilities are sort of still slipping through the fingers. I have been teaching very part-time at Boston Conservatory here in Boston. So that has been great to have that to, focus on, to get up and do whatever, sometimes it's only 1 day a week, sometimes it's 2 days a week, for a few hours, but via Zoom, at least that was something I could really focus on. And I love doing it, even across Zoom, which of course isn't ideal when you're dealing with musical theater students. It's like, sing this song or play this scene, but your scene partner's in a different box, very tricky. But it has been gratifying. And so that is going to continue. I've been asked to come back in the fall, but I don't know what courses yet. So I guess I'll find out within the next couple of weeks, and then we'll see if that's a good match,
Well, don't forget, you worked more recently than any of us on a stage doing Noises Off in front of a live audience.
That is true. And I'm really grateful for that, because I did not see that coming. And as we all know, so many theaters have either not been able to comply with the requirements that Actors Equity has put forward to them, and others have. And there's a lot of consternation about, things being produced, things not being produced. But this theater down there, they bent over backwards to make a show happen, not only for the audience and for the actors coming in, but for their own staff. They have people employed. They're like, we want to keep them employed. We need to have product. And so they complied with every single obstacle, and there was no incidents there. It all happened beautifully because everybody worked really hard down there to make it happen. So we were all really grateful.
He was on the show right before you guys went into rehearsal, and he was so excited about having that particular cast and being able to open up down there. And I'm sure it must have been a great morale booster, not only for the cast, but everybody in the community down there.
Absolutely. And to hear an audience, to see them and hear them behind their masks, because they were, of course, wearing their masks in the audience, but just to see them come and have a good time, it's like what we all want. We all want that experience. Like you said, I'll be happy just to go into a theater and see my colleagues performing. I don't need to perform myself so much as we all just want to get back and see that happen again.
Yeah. What about you, Anastasia? What are you?
I don't have anything right now. I was, COVID. I was on a show called The Society on Netflix, and we were shooting actually outside Boston. And we were all supposed to go back, and then it kept getting delayed, and it never happened. They ended up canceling us. So I've been kind of in that weird limbo of auditioning, and we moved out as a family to Los Angeles in August. Just not for any.
Is that where you are now?
Yes.
So you got up at that ungodly hour to do our show? God bless you.
And I blow dried my hair.
And it looks amazing.
I actually spoke to one of my oldest and dearest friends and asked her to be on the show a few weeks ago, and she said she would love to, but if you can just do it in the afternoon, because I can't be up I'm retired, and I'm not going to mention any names, but you might be able to guess from my imitation who that might have been, one of my favorite leading ladies.
It could have been anyone.
Well, okay, you can just ruminate on that. I don't want to be too. I don't want to embarrass her.
No, I have little kids, so and I actually, before the kids, I have cats who wake me up. So.
Oh, I know that. I know
Yes.
that. They've got alarm clocks in their bellies.
Yes.
I don't know how
Real cats, not like the cats that Richard taught.
Yeah, well,
Real cats that should have done that show to begin with.
well, that's probably where you are, Richard. That may be the house that cats built. I don't know, but so many people. I used to say that about the producers or the Fantastics. But
Oh, yeah.
near like cat the record that Cats did. But well, I'm going to do a little bit of self-promotion here because I got some good news this week. I'm going to Sarasota in 3 weeks to do the Roving World premiere of a new play called My Lord, What a Night.
Oh,
Great. Fantastic.
And believe it or not, I'm playing the guy that you see on the screen on the right-hand side of your screen.
Oh.
Yeah, it should be fun. And again, as you all know, this is a long time coming. It was supposed to happen 14 months ago, and I had projects lined up. They all fell down like a house of cards. And I got a lovely email from the director saying, "We're going to do this, and you're going to do it." So, and it was a long time coming because I have to leave in 3 weeks, and the offer only came through officially like 2 or 3 days ago, because they have a lot to comply with the restrictions, and every city is different, every town. I think the show's gotten extended 2 more weeks already because the only way they can do it is to social distance in the house, so they can't sell as many tickets for each performance. So
right.
And you don't want to perform outdoors in Florida right now.
I don't want to perform outdoors
ever,
anywhere.
I've been surprised many times. I went and did a Peter Pan that I didn't know was outdoors until I got there, and I thought, where are the walls here? What Captain Hook and that wig and that makeup, and it was difficult. And I remember a Camelot where the audience laughed at us when I sang "July and August Cannot Be Too Hot." As the bugs were flying in my mouth, and my poor Guinevere was melting under the furs. And so outdoor theaters, but we'll take the jobs now if they're out there. We'll put the sweating and the bugs, and don't get the wrong idea. We're hungry. We're hungry
of course,
for our salaries and our health insurance, and that's why I say we're not out of the woods yet, people. If there are people in the audience that can still donate to the Actors Fund, it would help all of these people, because it's going to take a while before we're all back up to full steam. So we invite you to do that. And I may be going on hiatus with this show for a few weeks because of this job, but we'll see. But still, if there are any theater professionals out there who would be interested in being on the panel, or just somebody who wants to give us feedback and say, don't have those 3 on anymore, just send us an email at beyondthegreenroom@gmail.com. And that is something that I will never say, because I love you all. I hope that we get to work together again real soon.
Yes.
In some form or another.
Me too.
Delightful. And,
yes, I hope so.
And Anastasia, I hear the concert behind you. I hear a little bit of piano music.
Did you hear it? That was Jean, who I was pregnant with when I worked with you, playing the entertainer. Dun, 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 dun,
How appropriate for our show. Yes.
I should have let him in. Anyway.
Well, in a way, I met him before.
You did.
I had no idea.
It was early days.
Yeah. You were very svelte, and I don't remember, was that character kind of nowhere near as evil as I was?
I was pretty evil.
Yeah.
And having lots of sex, like with my brother, and weird stuff.
Yeah, that's what Caligula was all about. Yeah. All right. Well, on that note. Well, have a wonderful summer, and let's all be together live before long. And thank you all for joining us on Beyond the Green Room. I will see you next week. These are our guests. We have a full house next week. Somebody that you know very well, Richard.
Jonathan.
Yes, Jonathan. Yeah, Trisha Rapier. David Caudle, who's a wonderful playwright that I worked on a project of his last year. And my old buddy, Kurt Ziske. So we're going to have a lot to talk about next week, too. Thank you, the three of you, for joining.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Russell.
Good to see you all.
Good seeing you. Good seeing you.
Hi,
both.
David. Nice to
All
see you,
three.
Richard.
David, too.
We're
Nice to
playing
see you
off
too.
with a little music from Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
Oh.
So another tribute to you but not from your cast album, unfortunately. But you can bop along to it if you
All right.
so choose.
Will do. I'll kick my leg up this high.
All right. Bye-bye.